what is happening.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal. And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
Senate today passed, or is in the process of passing, a tax cut for the state. We're a little disappointed. It's this large dollar amount, but it really doesn't help low-wage workers and some retirees and people living on fixed income. And as you know, inflation is impacting everybody and impacts those populations the most.
It impacts everybody. You were correct. Brian Colby, Missouri Budget Director, chatting with our news partners, ABC 17. So yesterday, there's some things happening, and this is still happening. It's going on today in Jefferson City. Things that when these tax cuts go into effect, whatever it is that they're going to look like, they are going to change what your paycheck looks like. They are going to change the amount of money going into your bank account so you can get rid of it just as quickly as long as Biden is president. I don't know how helpful ultimately any of this is going to be, but it's great for us here in mid-Missouri. And this dude, Brian Colby, he doesn't like it. You got lawmakers, I think, on all sides of the aisle. Well, we don't like any of these iterations of tax cuts. And I'll go back to, if you're making everybody mad, you must be doing something right.
They say that is the right way to go about a divorce case. When both parties are mad that the judge has done the right thing. But, ultimately, the Senate came together, right? They perfected a bill yesterday. Maybe, people have differences around the edges, but it looks like Missourians are finally going to get some tax relief, and the Senate is singing Kumbaya a little bit, maybe?
Maybe. Marsh, what's your take on what's going on in JC? So it would reduce the top tax rate to just under 5%, then future reduction. So this would be impactful on your check. Lincoln Hough, state senator, Springfield, probably one of the best looking dudes in either chamber. Jeff, come on, would you?
Oh, great. Another man crush from Branden Rathert.
He has a lot of those.
He does.
Marsh, get my back on this, buddy.
I think you at one point got Lincoln Hough and David Gregory confused.
Can I tell you this story real quick before we get back to business here?
They both have very, very good hair.
Yeah, and they dress nice. They don't smell as good as Mike Matheny, former manager for the Cardinals and current manager for the Royals. But it was the Roy Blunt thing earlier this year, the dinner to honor him at Missouri Farm Bureau. And so I was looking for Lincoln Hough, who I've met a couple of times over the years, but then looking for David Gregory. And I think, how embarrassing that is to even go up and how uncomfortable. And that's why I don't do it. Haven't done it since I was in my 20s. But to go up to a woman and just start a conversation, that's why I don't do it anymore. I'm shy. I'm bashful. Can't do it.
What?
Unless I'm representing Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Me, out in public, I wouldn't be like an aisle 7 at Mosier's going, hey, what's up? I can't do that.
I have a hard time believing that because there have been lots of times where we are at radio station events and you just kind of disappear, and we always find you with a group of women, always.
Well, the group of women always happen to find themselves with me is what I would say, but it's because I'm representing Wake Up Mid-Missouri. So anyhow, I'm at this event earlier this year, and I'm looking for David Gregory, and I think I went to the wrong guy and said, hey, are you David Gregory? Nope.
Oh, that's so embarrassing.
Yeah.
Especially when their pictures are online, Branden.
I know, but then it's like stalking.
No, it's not.
John Rizzo, the Democrat minority leader, he's a pretty good looking dude, too.
I don't know what he looks like.
Thanks for your help here, by the way, John.
Well, Stephanie, their pictures are online.
I do. He's a Democrat, though. In the Senate, I don't know. I have not had the opportunity to be introduced to Senator Rizzo.
So I hope you'll join us. Lincoln Lincoln Hough is going to be here. 7:35 this morning. Things that are going to be affecting your paycheck here in mid-Missouri, and we need this right now. We need this so bad. One of the reasons I am grateful to be living in Missouri, because we look at what's happening nationally. We know Jared Bernstein on Fox the other day telling Fox, hey, listen, nobody's because he's being questioned about the honesty of Biden's statements in that 60 Minutes interview. And basically Bernstein saying, nobody's trying to make you. We know it sucks right now.
I don't think you'll hear any White House economist or policy analyst saying Americans should feel good about inflation.
At the same time, so that's on Fox, right about the same time that's happening over on CNBC. White House economic advisor Heather Bushy.
Gas prices have come down phenomenally, Joe. I mean, you cannot.
Gas prices, she's trying to make you feel good about the economy on CNBC, and over on the other channel on the Fox, the dude is saying nobody's trying to make you feel good about the economy. And then we can go back to about 24 hours prior to that on 60 Minutes.
We're in a position where for the last several months it hasn't spiked. It's been basically even.
What's Joe doing there?
Yeah.
He's trying to make us feel good about the economy.
It reminds me of like when I'm trying to tell my husband when I come back from Target and I'm like, it was on sale. And he's like, that doesn't make it any better. I'm like, no, I don't believe you. I don't care. You did the wrong thing. Just because it's on sale doesn't mean it's a good deal. And they're trying to sell us, well, gas is only I don't even know what it is. $3.60 now. It's back up. I think everyone spiked back up yesterday.
Yeah, by yesterday afternoon, it was basically 360, 365 everywhere that I saw.
Oh, my goodness. 3:39 Monday. Yesterday, gas prices started blowing up here in mid-Missouri and doing it again today. And I think you're right. So we were seeing it happen with one gas station, basically, locally yesterday. And, Stephanie, you were right.
Yeah, that everyone was going to be up by the end of the day. And, Democrats are saying, well, at least it's not $4. And we're like, but it should be like $2.50.
You can, if you have time today, you can Google this. And you look at find a chart. Gas prices, January 19th. And actually, after November, they actually already started going up.
Or bacon prices.
Or bacon, or the price of Progressive soup.
Progresso soup.
And you see these charts. Oh, look, there's the tragic events of January the 20th of 2021. And you can see on the graphs, man, gas prices, bacon, Progressive soup progressively getting worse since the day this guy took office. And we're getting some relief in mid-Missouri. Good news on that. And this is interesting. We're going to continue to watch this for you this morning because this is something Russia, apparently overnight, Vladimir Putin gets on the TV and says basically, I think the technical term is conscription, telling Russian residents, hey, listen, you may need to join us in this military fight because the people of Ukraine are pushing back. They're flexing. They're pushing back hard. And so now he's saying, listen, it's the draft. In effect, and because they're losing their rear ends. And this ultimately could benefit us. Eventually, it's been going on for 7 months now. And we know. Remember why? Remember that dude from NATO testifying in Washington, D.C., and he was asked, why did Vladimir Putin invade Ukraine? You remember the answer the dude gave? Because Joe's sloppy pullout in Afghanistan. Vladimir Putin, he had already been eyeing the weakness since January 20th of 2021. He saw Joe could not handle a pullout in Afghanistan. He saw that Joe killed 13 of our fellow Americans, including a kid right here in Missouri. Joe killed them. Vladimir Putin said, now's the time. Been there for 7 months. But this would affect things eventually. They get it back on track. Wheat prices, which bread, there's a lot of stuff happening there. So these are things down the pipeline, which, by the way, couldn't we use another pipeline or two here for gasoline in this country?
But think about how amazing Ukraine has been through this whole thing and what a terrible place Russia is in. I mean, when this thing first started, do you remember we were all cheering on Ukraine, but in the back of your mind, were you really like, can they really withstand a Russia invasion? And everyone, I think, thought this is going to happen kind of quickly. Maybe there'd be a little bit of a split. But anyway, I just think I try to rewind the clock back to those first few weeks. And, really the fact that Ukraine has done what it's done in the last 8 months has been incredible. And I think Russia is just taking a huge loss. I'm hoping like China is watching what's happening in Russia.
Because it's amazing what the people, and I get people say, well, Ukraine is a horrible country. Yeah, you can say that about the past of the government, but the people of Ukraine, that is a way different story, impactful stuff.
Truth.
And that is John Marsh. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Marsh, how are you today, bud? Stephanie Bell is here.
Good morning.
Good morning. There's producer Hannah.
Yo.
Brian Houseworth is running around too. My name is Branden Rathert. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri on News Radio 104.5 KWOS and 93.9 The Eagle. If there is something that we can do for you, 874-9390. And sometimes, you know what? If there's something you can do for us, we're going to ask. And people are, what do you see in gas prices this morning? We detailed in with great thoroughness yesterday what was happening with gas prices here where we live. Bob, $3.24 to $3.69 in Boonville. So that jumped, what's the math there, 45 cents.
You know what I didn't have time to do yesterday? Fill up.
Dakota, see a gas station in Fayette, Missouri. Holy cow, $3.55 for regular, $4.55 for diesel. Now think about this for a second. If you're a regretful Biden voter, you're politically unhoused, you're not thinking where you're going to go. Since Joe's become president, you look at the gas prices, diesel prices, my goodness. Guess what delivers Stephanie Bell's bacon to the grocery store? Semi-trucks.
Big old trucks.
Guess what they run on?
Diesel.
That's why bacon and your progressive soup is going up so much because of diesel. This has all been happening since January the 20th of 2021. But Heather Boushey in the White House.
Gas prices have come down.
They came down and boom, went right back up. The other thing that I hope you will do this morning, coming up 8:10, and I hope that you have an opportunity to talk to people, and this is not even political. Talk to people maybe that typically don't listen to talk radio. If you know anybody who is a parent of preteens, teens, college-age kids, do us a favor. Call them and say, hey, listen, coming up 8:10 this morning, Stephanie, producer, Marsh, Houseworth, Rathert, are going to be talking to the Assistant Chief of Police in Columbia. His name is Jeremiah Hunter. He is the head of narcotics. Last year, he helped organize with a bunch of other officials. They organized a town hall meeting because we had a rash of fentanyl overdoses. And where does fentanyl come from? It comes from China. How does it get here? Through that secure border. Oh, God. Through that secure border. Kamala and Joe, this border is secure. And it was because there was a rash of overdoses. I got to chatting with Assistant Chief Jeremiah Hunter yesterday, and he told me the numbers of fentanyl overdoses right here in mid-Missouri. So this is not a Fox talking point. It's not a talk radio talking point. What we're going to hear this morning are facts as they are affecting us and our kids and our neighbors right here in mid-Missouri. We're looking at numbers of fentanyl overdoses last year compared to this year. How kids are getting this, how easy it is for them to get this stuff, and how stunning the consequences can be. So I hope that you'll call everybody you know, post it on your Facebook page. If you got the Twitter, post it on the Twitter and say, listen, coming up on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and News Radio 104.5 KWOS, you got to listen to what they're going to be doing on the show with this police chief, talking about real numbers. See, we're talking about this border stuff and how it affects us. This is
I think it is necessary to support the proposal of the Ministry of Defense and the General Staff to conduct a partial mobilization in Russia. I repeat, we are only talking about a partial mobilization.
That's Vladimir Putin on the TV overnight saying, hey, listen, we are going to need you, calling on Russian residents. We are going to need you to come help us take Ukraine because we're getting our tails kicked. And that's getting us into today's daily D.C. rundown with Stephanie Bell here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I'm wondering if it's going to come up at the UN today.
Yeah, Biden's headed to New York for the UN General Assembly. He has a much tougher role this year than he did last year. Apparently, he talked very broadly just about American leadership, about global partnership, those kinds of things last year. And this year, we've got some serious stuff to talk about. And so Biden will be talking, obviously, about Russia as he's looking for allies to stand firm in backing Ukraine. He'll be meeting with the new British Prime Minister, Liz Truss. They'll also be talking about a global food security initiative and then money to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria.
I can imagine he's going to get there and he's going to approach Truss. And,
wait a minute, how old are you? What did I say?
Oh, thank you, Joe. Again, on the worldwide stage. By the way, there's an unaired clip from that 60 Minutes interview the other night. We're going to do that. Kind of interesting because he was asked about that speech in Philadelphia. He was asked, do you think that was kind of divisive? Hear his answer. We're going to do that 710 unaired video clip from the 60 Minutes interview.
So, yeah, it's going to be interesting with Russian aggression, Chinese ambitions, a lot of people skeptical of the UN's relevance, and then also doubts about America's, staying power, ability to be a good ally. Those kinds of things are all going to be weighing kind of in the background of that meeting coming up.
And that's a great point because think about this. One of the things Stephanie and I have been on since day one of this Biden regime is we knew immediately one of the quickest negative effects of Joe Biden being elected president is we immediately lost our standing on the worldwide stage. Putin. That's why Putin invaded Ukraine. You've got NATO, or not NATO. It was NATO saying, we look bad on a worldwide stage. And now in our home court, man, Biden here in America and all these other world leaders probably like, back in the rooms, how you do at those big events when all these lobbyists in Jefferson City are around and they're all pointing at Bill Eigel, like.
Silly. Well, today the House is going to vote, I think, on an elections bill relating to certifying an election after a November election. So kind of January 6th stuff. We'll see a vote from the House in D.C. today.
Coming up 5 minutes from now, latest on illegal immigration and a mid-Missouri company making national news headlines. Wait till you find out why.
hungry, bring your weary, bring your sick, and bring your poor. But keep your ass off Martha's Vineyard. Don't come back no more.
And that is the truth with these progressives, whether they're in Martha's Vineyard or anybody else who's wearing flip-flops and headbands and carrying around a guitar. We welcome everybody, rainbows and unicorns, and we love everybody. That's why we got this plaque, and heck, we got the plaque and we framed it and we put it up in City Hall, and it says, look, we're a sanctuary city. How awesome are we? Oh, crap, look, the illegals are coming. The illegals are coming. All of a sudden, they're not so good with it. I love that song. I want to thank whoever it is that sent that. I wish I could give credit to whoever sang it. You know, what does that song remind you of? Let's play a little bit more of it again.
And bring your poor, but keep your ass off Martha's Vineyard.
What does that remind you of?
It reminds me of the campaign anthem.
It's the right time.
Dear God, no.
Did you pick that up too, bud? Did you get... It's on vinyl. And they use the vinyl sleeve to chop their weed while they're getting high and talking about how great they are and how, you know, we're loving people, we're a sanctuary city, until they actually show up. Steph, what does Trudy Bush Valentine's campaign anthem remind you of?
Puff the Magic Dragon.
Oh, Puff the Magic Dragon.
It's so close.
You hearing it, Houseworth?
That's a popular song in the 70s, Peter, Paul, and Mary there.
Oh, gosh. And wasn't that, does anybody know, wasn't that song about, like, was it about weed or heroin or morphine or something?
No, I don't believe it was. Now, some took it to be, but Peter, Paul, and Mary always said, as far as I know, news accounts, that it was not. It was more, now they were definitely anti-war. There's no question about that. But no, that was not about, you know.
The only people who thought it was about morphine were people who were on morphine, probably. They could say that about any song. You know, that song, it's really about morphine, man. Oh, gosh.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, latest poll numbers for what they are worth. Do you believe, a lot of folks I know don't believe in polls. Do you believe these poll numbers? Schmidt clobbering Valentine?
100%.
Yeah, I believe that.
Especially after that song.
It's probably, not helping. That song is to the Trudy Valentine campaign, as is the economy is to any Democrats campaign. It's just a killer.
And I guess as of yesterday, she's still whining about the debates. And like, I get that. Didn't we go through this last week? I think, you know, she should get like one day of like, oh, he didn't show up for the debate. But then just like, I don't think Missourians are going to be really receptive to the idea of like, he won't debate me. Like, I'm just over that already.
Yeah, and I think there's more and more. We covered this, I think, in great detail here on the show. It's like, is that really even a thing anymore for people?
If you have something novel or interesting to say, then say it. You have social media platforms. Like, you don't need to say it to Eric Schmidt's face. Like, I'm fine if you say it on social media. Like, we don't have to put you in the same room. But the problem is, like, what are her issues? I mean, they're issues that are inconsistent with Missouri values. And I think that's why the polls look like the way that they do. And I don't think anything, whether she's standing next to Schmidt or whether she's singing a song or whether she's saying it on social media, I think she has a problem. And I don't think standing next to Schmidt on a stage is going to change that for her.
Has anybody ever watched, let's say, a Republican and a Democrat debate? Have you ever had a Democrat watch a debate between a Democrat and a Republican go, oh, I'm going to vote for the Republican now, and vice versa? Have you ever had a Republican watch a debate and something so profound was said in the debate that Republican watching that on Fox News that night said, you know what? I was going to vote for the Republican, but after watching this debate, I'm going to vote for the Democrat.
Zero. And I think there are probably independents who watch and are like, you know what? I'm not going to vote at all. That is probably a real possibility. Like, both of these people are stupid. I'm not voting. Which you should vote, even if you're an independent. I don't encourage that, but I do think there are people out there who are just like, I'm over it.
But that's a great point. This is, by the way, the funny one this morning. That's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
The smart one is Mr. Houseworth.
It's good to see you.
The smarter one is Mr. Marsh. I'll take it. Producer Hannah is here.
Oh, wow. I'm not smart.
And I'm Branden Rathert, 874-9390, 874-9390. Kim, via text, says the song, the Martha Vineyards song, it says the name is Chad Prather.
And bring your pork, but keep your ass off Martha's Vineyard.
I wonder if Chad Prather, does anybody know anything about this Chad Prather guy? I wonder if he's a local dude. Thank you for that, Kim. I do want to let you know, because we're going to do some, I think we're going to do an O'Reilly factor here, the border, and there are local implications here in mid-Missouri with what's happening at the border. Coming up, I hope anybody people that maybe they listen to country music or top 40 or they don't listen to talk radio, whatever it is, I hope that you will let them know. Say, hey, man, seriously, you got to check out Wake Up Mid-Missouri, 8:10 this morning. The Assistant Chief of Police, Jeremiah Hunter, Assistant Chief of Police in Columbia, who's also dude's head of narcotics, man. This guy has seen some stuff over the years. And I would dare and we're going to be talking specifically about fentanyl. Comes from China, gets into Mexico, and then comes through our secure borders, the borders that Kamala and Joe and Alejandro Mayorkas, the Department of Homeland Security, the borders are secure. Yet fentanyl's coming up here, and it's making its way into the heart of America, into the heart of Missouri, and it's killing my neighbors. They're overdosing on this crap. And I would dare, I wonder, people that have had kids that have died of fentanyl overdoses, talk to them about border being secure and about what we should be doing down there. I bet it would be a very different conversation. But he's here at 8:10, so I hope you'll let people know. And Houseworth, you've worked with this guy. He's always got he's in the dirt, man. He really is.
This is a very serious issue. There's no doubt it doesn't get the attention, quite frankly, I think it probably deserves. We've covered it. We'll continue to cover it. There actually was a big town hall last year at Hickman High School that you were actually there, Branden, and the numbers are pretty comparable from last year, so we'll get a chance to see what's going on there. I know the Columbia Police Department, they've been working with that in addition to all the other issues that they're, violent issues. We've had violent crime, a couple of definitely one high-profile homicide over at Mosier's. They've been very, very busy in addition to working the stuff you're talking about.
Fentanyl and our kids right here in mid-Missouri, please, as a favor, I'm serious, just asking, 874-9390 is our number, but I'm asking you to tell people you got to listen to this 8:10. That's happening this morning on News Radio 104.5 KWOS and 93.9 The Eagle.
Look at what you just stepped in.
You are about to enter the no zone.
This is the O'Reilly Factor with Branden Rathert.
Yes, I hit Branden with a stick.
When Bill O'Reilly was on the TV, he had the O'Reilly Factor. We've got the O'Reilly Factor. We take what people are saying, we run it through the BS meter, or better yet, we let other people fact-check things like this statement from our vice philosophizer.
The border is secure. We have a secure border.
All right, our border is secure. Let's get the help of a Democrat. Now, this is a guy, actually, we were heavily criticizing on the show yesterday. His name is Javier Salazar. He is the Bexar County Sheriff. He is the sheriff in Texas, San Antonio, who is investigating Ron DeSantis. I don't understand the investigation. I can't imagine somebody like from the Cole County Sheriff's Department, John, doing something really nice. Hey, we took illegal immigrants and we're putting them in a sanctuary city. I think it's a beautiful thing to do. I can't imagine anybody from the Cole County Sheriff's Department. We're going to launch an investigation for somebody doing the right thing. Blows my mind. Well, the other thing that a lot of these national news outlets, New York Times, CNN, none of them ever covered this yesterday. This sheriff, there's people calling for him to leave office because of the way he handles crime. Stephanie and I ran down his crime numbers, bottom line on those crime numbers we were looking at yesterday.
It's one of the worst places to live. He has terrible crime numbers, and he's under his own investigation.
Yeah, he's being investigated. Crime is horrible. But none of the national news outlets. And incidentally, this story was happening on the same day. You can get onto the San Antonio Express, front and center. Sheriff investigating Ron DeSantis. And over there off to the right, a little quiet, hanging out over there on the other side of the newspaper, sheriff being asked to step down because of shoddy investigations Unbelievable.
I mean, if I'm a sheriff and I'm being investigated and my crime numbers look like that, I'd be trying to investigate someone else as well,
Yeah. He's auditioning for a job in Merrick Garland's office. So this guy, he is a Democrat, Javier Salazar, reacting to Kamala Harris's. And remember, he's the one who, he's going after Ron DeSantis. But here's what he's got to say about Kamala's border is secure comments.
I don't think that the border is as secure as the folks in D.C. might believe. I've talked to lots of my fellow sheriffs here in the state of Texas, Republican and Democrat. With regard to Texas sheriffs, it's not about red or blue with us. It's about the gold in our badge.
And I love that, by the way. Great, powerful statement there at the end. It's not about, although coming from him, it has no weight because he's full of crap. When he says it's not about the red or blue, it is about the red or blue. You're being investigated. You are being asked to step down. Crime in your county is unbelievable. And you get at a podium and say, I'm going after Ron DeSantis. You're doing it for news headlines, so don't tell me that stuff. It's a great statement, but coming from you, it has absolutely no weight. Do we have time to cover this story? And I'm so mad, had it yesterday. Because nobody locally had it. And this is a story, it has to do with a local company who has for several years now been making worldwide headlines. Not only have they been making worldwide headlines, this company that does a lot right here in mid-Missouri, but they've been, kind of a hip thing. They get talked about on a lot of radio shows, and they get buzz on Twitter and Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok and all that stuff. They are making news headlines. Should we do that? Should I push it off till like the next few minutes? And I promise.
Well, where did you tease it originally?
Did you write it on your board?
That's what I was going to do. Did I say I would do it here?
I don't know. Did you?
Dang it. You guys are supposed to be my rememberers.
If you can't remember, how the heck are we supposed to remember?
So this dude, Beyond Meat, has a pretty impressive factory in Columbia. Hire a lot of people here in mid-Missouri.
Our neighbors.
Yeah, our physically neighbors of the Zimmer Radio Group. And you drive by there, and I haven't tried Beyond Meat. Maybe it's good. People I've talked to that have tasted it said, yeah, it tastes like a burger, but the texture is kind of wonky. But apparently it's expensive. It costs a lot to make it. You drive by there, it smells like a mix between dog food and cereal. That's just the way I smell it. That's what it smells like. The executive for Beyond Meat jailed after a college game the other night. And this was Missouri State almost upsetting Arkansas. And then some stuff he did after the game. We're going to cover that coming. You've heard this story yet, Marsh? Yeah. Pretty good. Yeah. All right. We'll do.
The pandemic is over. We still have a problem with COVID. We're still doing a lot of work on it. But the pandemic is over.
And the other problem we have is that we're still forcing people in the military, making them get vaccination shots. But if the pandemic's over, Joe, did you know? So there's an unaired clip from the 60 Minutes interview. It's not, and I don't want to oversell this. I want everything in me wants to say, "Oh my God, you got to hear what he said in this unaired clip from 60 Minutes. We're doing that at 7:10." But I'm a dude. I have a tendency to exaggerate some of these things.
Yes.
Don't agree with me, Steph.
But it's not like a hot mic situation, though.
No,
it's a recorded, but just edited out.
Yeah, they didn't use it in the show, but it is interesting. And basically, he was asked about that speech in Philadelphia where he had the sickle and the hammer and sickle and the
And the red
swastika
lights.
and the reds behind him while he was yelling with a couple of leathernecks standing guard behind him. He was asked about that speech. Hear what he had to say. Coming up, 7:10 here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. All right, there's big Mid-Missouri. There's Stephanie Bell. I'm Branden Rathert. Producer Hannah John Marsh is here, too, as is Mr. Houseworth. Big local company here in Mid-Missouri. They do a lot of stuff. It's beyond meat. And apparently, here's my summation of the story. Missouri State, Arkansas football game on Saturday. Missouri State almost shocked Arkansas, and I don't know where they are in the rankings, but pretty good team this year. Missouri State almost beats them, which that's not supposed to happen. Well, after the game, it's about 11 o'clock at night. A couple dudes, I guess, were out in the parking lot, and some dude with a little Subaru bumps this guy's tire, this executive from Beyond Meat, hits his tire. They end up fighting. The dude from Beyond Meat, vegan food, eats a chunk of his nose. Bit the dude in the nose.
Yuck.
Yeah. So that is, you can look at it two ways. That is Beyond Meat.
Gross.
Or the other way you can look at it, well, that's not vegan, I don't think. Does human flesh count in that?
It's a huge company. I was shocked when Chris and I were over in London. We popped into a pub and looking at the menu, there was Beyond Meat on the menu. And I was like thinking, is this like the Columbia Beyond Meat? Sure. I mean, and Chris said, what other Beyond Meat would that be? But international company. So, I mean, it was all over the headlines yesterday of this. And, I think they said, oh yeah, he's on leave or I don't exactly remember their words. He's not fired, but he's
drying out in a drunk tank is what I'm going to presume he was drunk because I don't think a sober dude bites another man's nose.
Oh, got your nose.
This ain't like your Uncle Harold at Thanksgiving going, oh, got your nose. He bit the dude's nose. And meanwhile, so if they do let him go, I don't know if it would be because of that or because of the financial performance of the company, which has not been doing so well. As a matter of fact, at their height a couple of years ago, I think it was just a couple of years ago, man, they were $234 a share. That was in 2019. That would have been nice to have owned some shares back then. Trading as of Monday, $17 a share.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think as a food business, I think they're facing a lot of the same struggles other folks are, whether it be labor shortages or the pandemic or diesel prices
or the product.
Oh,
mashed
Branden.
up vegetables to try to taste like. And I don't know. That's not fair. I've never tasted it. If you've tasted it, would love to hear what your thoughts are on it. 874-9390. I consistently hear the taste is fine. The texture and knowing that what you're eating is mashed up plant material.
I mean, if you cover it in barbecue sauce, right? Like
put bacon on it. Bacon and barbecue
Exactly.
sauce will make anything good. That unaired Biden clip, 60 Minutes. We're going to do that for you. Coming up at 7:10 here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Senate today passed, or is in the process of passing, a tax cut for the state. We're a little disappointed. It's this large dollar amount, but it really doesn't help low-wage workers and some retirees and people living on fixed income. And as you know, inflation is impacting everybody and impacts those populations the most.
That's Brian Colby, Missouri Budget Project Director, chatting with our news partners at ABC 17 yesterday. Some movement yesterday in Jefferson City, and these are all things, the stuff happening that happened yesterday, things that are going to be rolling out today. These are real things. These are tangible things. I know so many times we talk in policy about, well, what's happening on a national level. It's tangible what Joe has done to this country. It is tangible, and it is tangibly bad. I don't think that makes sense, but you get my drift. This is a real, we talk policy and all this. This is you can touch these tax cuts.
Yeah, and I think it's a big win for low tax advocates in Missouri. I mean, there are folks who have been working for 10 years for income tax cuts in Missouri. And right now, what ended up happening several years back was kind of this trigger system, whereas if, we hit a certain revenue number, then it would automatically, ratchet that number down. And, this is just furthering that and quickening that that plan. And you see states like Tennessee, like Florida, states with low income tax. And I know, Brandon, you say they're going to get you one way or another. Yeah. But the truth of the matter is, it is drawing people to their state. There are folks, and especially now when you can work remotely, a lot of folks can work from wherever they want. And if they have a choice to move into Missouri or Tennessee, Tennessee's looking really attractive.
Yeah. And Tennessee, by the way, here in mid-Missouri, the Outdoor Brands building, as I understand it, just about every single Smith & Wesson rifle, I believe, made in Springfield, Massachusetts, they all come here for distribution. That's right off of I-70. That is a massive complex. A lot of people work there. County Commission in Boone County, they wanted to expand. County Commission in Boone County said, no, we're not going to let you do that because guns. And guess where they moved to? Mm-hmm. They're going to Tennessee. About a year, they'll be gone, taking that tax base, taking those jobs. That's how these things affect us. Marsh, your take on what happened in Jefferson City yesterday, because it is going to affect your paycheck, buddy. Mm-hmm. And it'll be, because I think the thing I'm interested in, everybody likes to get a check, even as distasteful as it is. I hate that whatever government entity is giving me a check. I can't stand, this is wrong, but I'll sure cash it and take the grandkids on the vacation at Yellowstone, baby. I'll do it. I'll take that, but I'll put it back in the economy. It's distasteful. So I wonder, if you look at, because everybody gets excited about an immediate check, the issuance of a check. When can you cut me a check? When's my check coming? We all like that check. But the slow and steady pace of, tax cuts, this will be longer. You're not getting a one-time check. It's different.
And there are triggers in there, too. It's very complicated, and we'll see. John, I'm not so sure that it's a slam dunk, by the way, in the House. I mean, Cody Smith, obviously, and it very well could be. We'll see what happens on the floor. The Democrats certainly will make the Democrats feel like it's going to, whatever they do is going to jeopardize, the Republicans will jeopardize social services, et cetera. But, in terms of a tax cut with these triggers, it takes a while for it to take effect. The idea from Cody Smith and the idea from John Wieman, and it was a House-originated idea to get these checks out, was Lincoln Hough as well, to get something into the hands of Missourians right away, and you wouldn't have to wait as long. But we'll see what happens on that. I know Lincoln Hough really pushed for that at the beginning of the special session. Now they've lowered that threshold down. They were looking at $325. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. And this special session is taking longer than what the governor, I think, would have anticipated.
And Lincoln Hough is actually going to be here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on News Radio 104.5 KWOS and 93.9 The Eagle. He's going to be here he'll be here 7:35, about 30 minutes from now. So please join us for that. You were going to be one of the first to know. By the way, this was so cool. I'm listening to the Randy Tobler show yesterday. He's here 4 to 6, and State Rep Cherie Tolson-Rice just called in because that's how this radio station is treated. I mean, when your radio station is covers mid-Missouri and you are in the capital, lawmakers call here and talk about things that affect you as you're getting ready for work at 7:15 in the morning. It's almost 7:15-ish. And then coming up 7:25-ish. We're gonna do what's hot with Hannah. You know what? We should make a bet to make sure I get to what's hot with. I bet if we bet.
No, because if you have something writing on it, of course you're going to be on time.
You know me all.
No, that's a crap deal.
You know me all too well, my dear.
Yes.
But Lincoln Hough is here. I'm wondering, is he with the idea of these checks? I'm wondering, didn't Scott Fawn from the Missouri Times, was Lincoln Hough one of the names that could potentially become the Attorney General after Eric Schmidt wins the Senate race? Was his name on that list?
No.
Stephanie's name was on the list.
Yeah, I don't remember.
No, his name was not on that list.
I didn't hear that, but he is in line to be the Senate Appropriations Chairman. You could make and he will be here in January. He chairs government accountability. Dan Hegeman is chair. He's basically, I'm not going to use the term lame duck, but he is a lame duck, but still he has a lot of power. But Hough really wants the checks. Now the question is, what will end up happening? I'm not sure Hegeman opposes it. I think he just wants to get something done. But there are a couple bills that'll go to Hough's committee today at 9:00.
Brian said, I'm not going to use the term, but.
Yeah. But he is basically a lame duck.
That was a big butt.
Yeah, it is.
We like butts here on the show. I'm a fan of big butts. I'm not going to do this, but I love big butts. I like that. Good work, House. By the way, that's the comedian on the show is Mr. Houseworth. How are you, bud?
I'm hanging in there. This will be an interesting one to watch. I'm glad we're going to have the senator on, too.
7:35. His sidekick is John Marsh. Stephanie Bell. By the way, people have been kind. Have you seen Stephanie's tutorial on our video? You can watch our show. I didn't know if you know this. You can watch our show on our YouTube channel. Search Wake Up Mid-Missouri and Stephanie. Stephanie is, it's incredible what Stephanie does. She is a high-powered attorney who just got back from the death of the Queen in England. She is a mom. She is a wife. Today she's being a daughter for some family that has some health issues. She's an older woman in the city of Ashland. What did y'all talk about last night?
Impact fees, development impact fees.
How long did your meeting take?
We actually went into closed session and talked about some other stuff, so I didn't get out of there until like 9:50.
Wait a minute. What did you talk about in the closed session in the city of... All right.
Nope, but I think it was a long meeting for us, about 9:15. But yeah, I mean, just with a rapidly growing community, we've got a lot of stuff going on, and we've got a lot of important decisions coming our way. We've got some annexation issues and some other... we've got zoning codes coming up, so a lot of land use issues.
And annexation is something we're all watching for because it starts more and more on that 63 area. I don't know how many tens of thousands of people a day using 63 back and forth from like Jefferson City and the Lake and Columbia and Centralia and Kirksville. I mean, all that stuff. These are things that we're going to be seeing here in the near future. See, that's producer Hannah.
Hello.
My name is Branden Rathert. Our phone number, 874-9390. Pat, via text, name on the treasurer's list. Lincoln Hough.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, could be. Okay, anybody here? So the big interview with Joe Biden, Scott Pelley, CPS, he was in very friendly territory. But apparently there's a clip that's on there. And I don't want to oversell this. I don't want to, do a big tease and then disappoint you. I've done that enough in my life. This is... He was asked, and I don't know why they didn't show this on the TV the other night, but he was asked by Scott Pelley, basically, he's like, you said some really nasty things in that speech. The speech, Philadelphia, hammer and sickle behind him, and the swastika and the red lights, and the military men standing on guard, menacing, daring anybody who disagree with him. That's the way it came across. But it's like, and I don't like to do this. I don't like to air these full audio clips.
But
again, we love big butts here on the show. So it's like 1:25, and I'm wondering, can I speak? Because I can edit it and make it do 60. Can I do that?
Is everyone going to sound like a chipmunk?
For the sake of time here. Is everybody cool if I do that? Because we just don't have the time, and I'm trying to get to What's Hot with Hannah at 7:25. Hannah is forcing my hand here. What's Hot with Hannah is like these fun things that you can talk about at work today, and we're always late for it. So I'm thinking is what we could do is we could speed it up. So here's the gist of what's happening. He's saying, you kind of said some dark things about comparing, Trump supporters to people like, all this stuff. And Biden says, no, people misread my speech. I don't think that's what happened. Pelley and Biden.
But later in the speech, you conflated them with people who disagree with you on abortion. And I wonder that's a misreading of my speech.
All right. That's a misreading of my speech, according to Biden. And then he went on further. He said, no, you guys got it wrong. So everybody universally accepted that Biden was critical of anybody who voted for Trump. And it was a very divisive speech, or divisive. How do they say it in England, Steph?
Oh, probably divisive.
Divisive. I say divisive. Universally accepted as, hey, listen, that was wrong. Just what you did. You want to criticize Trump, you shouldn't do that while you're in office. You keep criticizing your predecessor. I think that's wrong, too. But to criticize people who voted for him. Remember.
Unity.
The unity guy. All right. Coming up 5 minutes from now, we are going 7:25-ish. We are going to do What's Hot with Hannah. Something fun to talk about at work today. What do you got for us today, Hannah?
Albert Pujols is really getting a lot of love around the MLB as he nears 700 career home runs. And the Padres did something really cool for him before last night's game.
I love good stories like this. Good morning at 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:25. What the?
continual improvement, and now
You just wanted to prove a
the
point.
climax.
Let's see. I've been here for a year, so 1 out of what's the percentage of 1 out of 392 days?
And that's just Stephanie's entire time here on Wake Up. How long have we been doing What's Hot with Hannah? I think we've been doing this for 3 years, Hannah?
Something like that. Maybe not quite.
3 years. Just fun stuff to talk about, something different, something off the beaten path, something that's usually posted on the Facebook page because, there's a lot of heavy news and it's kind of fun to back off a little bit and talk about just something that's fun, whether it's beer shortages potentially or smells.
And if you're a little bit older, it can help keep you cool. Something that all the young folks are talking about.
Yeah, Hannah will keep you. Hey, here's what the younger folks are talking about. Here's what's happening in our world. It's a great feature. I love it.
Well, so I did the math, and 1 day out of 392 days is 0.26%.
That's definitely an F.
Well, not if you're in the Columbia Public School District, because they've got this crazy grading system, and they're talking about changing it again. All right, what's hot with Hannah today?
So did you know that Albert Pujols, I think we're all sick of maybe hearing about it. We just want this guy to hit 700 career home runs. But even the San Diego Padres honored Albert Pujols last night before the game. Yeah. And they did something really cool for both him and Yadier Molina. And they did custom surfboards with pictures of Yadi and Albert Pujols on them. And they're really cool. There's a picture posted on the Facebook page, but I just thought it was really cool to see an opponent honoring somebody on the opposite team like that. I thought that was really cool. And they honored 2 players.
So it'd be like if Chuck Schumer showed up in the Senate and said, here, Mitch, I got you a surfboard with your mug on it. Are we friends now?
Yeah, I mean, it would be a little weird maybe, but I think it's a class act.
Yeah.
It's a customized surfboard with your face on it is kind of a cool gift. The only thing that Cardinals Nation is wondering, Albert Pujols' surfboard is 2 feet taller than Yadier Molina. And people on Twitter are that's cool, but why is Albert so much bigger than Yadi's?
So that's something you can share with your coworkers today. Did you see the Yadi and Albert Pujols surfboards with their faces on it that the San Diego Padres did for the Cardinals before they got skunked again last night?
Yeah, there is that.
Yeah, they've scored 1 run in their last 3 games. Skunked last night, skunked on Sunday, scored 1 run on a fluke play, really, on Saturday night in extra innings. That hitting ain't coming through. Here's kind of another cool thing. So on the radio play, which we carry Cardinals baseball on several radio stations within the Zimmer family, on our Cat Country station and on 93.9 The Eagle. And so it's Ricky Horton, who's a former pitcher for the Cardinals back in the day of me and John Marsh. And then you've got John Rooney, who Marsh used to work with years ago. Fantastic story. But Ricky Horton, John Rooney's been with the Cardinals since 2006, and he was always the colored guy behind Mike Shannon. Mike Shannon was the play-by-play guy, but now John Rooney, he's the main play-by-play guy. But him and Ricky Horton, they take turns doing the call during the games. One does a few innings, and it's kind of like sometimes I'll step out so I can go get some more tea, and Stephanie takes over the show.
I just like how you're talking about sports looking at me like I have any idea what you're talking about.
Steph, didn't we talk about getting you a shirt that said, yay, sports?
Yeah.
So is what they're going to do. Ricky Horton has said, he said, you know what? When Albert Pujols has 699 home runs and he steps up to the plate with the possibility of his 700th home run, I'm going to let John Rooney handle that call.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
That's really nice.
All right, coming up, so what could potentially happen in Jefferson City today that will change your paycheck? State Senator Lincoln Hough, he is from the Springfield area. He joins us on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, coming up about 5 minutes from now.
You have to note the Republicans always close well because they find some new way to scare the living daylights out of swing voters about something. That's what they did in 2021, where they made critical race theory sound worse than smallpox.
By the way, Mr. Clinton, I would argue that is worse than smallpox. You're in schools, in local schools even, Columbia Public Schools, teaching kids. I have these homework assignments parents have sent me over the past year and a half, where kids are writing, I would feel bad because I'm white, because this is what they're teaching me in school, that I'm bad. I'm bad because it's through the scope of presentism. Everything that happened back then, I need to pay for today, which is BS. And you force this on little kids. So I would agree, maybe that CRT was worse than smallpox. But here's the latest thing that's freaking parents out, man. It's fentanyl. Matter of fact, I hope you will let people know, 8:10 this morning. The Assistant Chief of Police in Columbia, Jeremiah Hunter, is going to be joining us, talking about the influx of fentanyl that is happening here in mid-Missouri. Last year, there was a town hall. There was a rash of fentanyl overdoses in like a span of, I don't know, it was like 30, 60 days. There was a big town hall, community leaders, elected officials, all coming in to take part in this. We got to chatting. The chief and I did, Assistant Chief and I, chatting yesterday. Fentanyl overdose numbers last year compared to this year. I'll tell you this, without giving you the numbers right now. I'm going to wait on Assistant Chief of Police Jeremiah Hunter. We're going to outdo what we did last year. And where does that fentanyl come from? It comes from China, gets to Mexico, and then what happens at our secure border?
Yeah, it just flows right through.
Comes through.
I mean, as a parent, someone who kids are going to be preteens soon, seeing, I mean, it's so heartbreaking seeing the stories of folks, online saying, as a parent, we tried everything we could, and it was too powerful for them to overcome as a young person. And I mean, it's a serious concern, and it's happening right here in mid-Missouri. It's
a big deal, and we're not trying to scare you. And there is some good news happening in mid-Missouri. As a matter of fact, I want to bring in Lincoln Hough, state senator, reps the Springfield area. He's joining us right now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I'm Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, producer Hannah. Some type of income tax cut moving forward. Lincoln Hough, welcome into the show. What are we doing? Bottom line, what's happening as of this morning?
Yeah, so good morning, Brandon. Good morning, mid-Missouri. Thanks for having me on. So the real quick version of this is, a lot of people have seen economic growth in the last several years, Missouri being, one of us in the Midwest who's, I believe, had some good policies in place. We managed the COVID pandemic. I think Governor Parson did a great job keeping our state open. So what you've seen, quite frankly, is record revenue growth. Now, when we do that, when we see those numbers, it's my belief, and I think a lot of the other Republicans up here, that we want to provide tax relief to the folks back at home. So the package, the real short version of the package that the Senate passed yesterday, we should send final approval on today and ship over to the House, is a little over $1 billion tax cut for, every individual that's got a individual income tax in this state. And I think the important thing to remember here is that this will help. This helps everybody. This helps low-income earners, high-income earners, small businesses that employ all of our friends and neighbors and keep our main streets open.
Lincoln, Senator Lincoln, let me ask you, Senator Hough, Senator Lincoln, I'm making you sound like Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln Hough, state senator from Springfield. By the way, I got to tell you this. I'll forget if I don't mention it now.
Yeah.
Caleb Rowden, roast of Caleb Rowden last week. Your Bill Eigel ball washer line.
Love it.
My God, that you can ask anybody here on the show. That's all I was talking about the next day.
Quick side note. The thing that I think that we have lost sometimes here in politics is the ability to go and get along and have a good time. And Caleb Rowden was a great guy to let us come in and tell some jokes. And I think that does. Honestly, Brandon, I think that does a lot to rebuild just the camaraderie that then leads to good things like big old tax cuts for everybody back at home.
I agree. And Hannah can get my back on this. When I came in, what was I talking about the next morning?
The Bill Eigel joke.
The Bill Eigel, that line.
Yeah.
But more importantly, talking about it was cool to see Republicans and Democrats all up there. Up on stage, roasting Caleb. You had Scott Fawn from This Week in Missouri Politics, Missouri Times, everybody getting along, having a few drinks, poking fun at each other. To a bigger point, yes, it was neat to see that happen. So let me ask you this before we move forward back to tax cuts, things that are going to affect people's paychecks. Yesterday, you all are talking about the bill. What was the opposition saying regarding this bill?
Well, I mean, the opposition is I think the usual stuff, Brandon, where people say, look, we've got further investments we need to make in other social programs, things like that. I think the thing that everybody should remember is this state, under the leadership of Dave Schatz, Caleb Rowden, Dan Hageman's our Senate Appropriations Chairman, we've made investments in education. We've made investments in infrastructure. We've made investments in workforce development. And then we've had a lot of policies, like I said earlier, that the governor has kept this state open through the last couple of years of this ongoing pandemic that shut down a lot of our neighboring states. And quite frankly, I believe drove a lot of businesses into Missouri. And so the bottom line on this tax cut is folks will see an automatic, assuming that the governor signs it after the House takes it up and passes it, folks will see an automatic reduction. Right now, their taxes are 5.3% on individual income tax at the highest rate in Missouri. This will roll it all the way down under 5% automatically with, in my opinion, responsible trigger mechanisms to bring those rates all the way down to 4.5%. So here's the big takeaway. In the last 8 years, under Republican control in mid-Missouri and Jefferson City, you've seen a 25% reduction in your individual income tax in this state.
So in other words, if you're a Democrat or you're a regretful Biden voter that's checking out the conservative way of how things work, that's the bottom line there. State Senator Lincoln Hough joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Right. Well, I actually, in the initial bill, I had a one-time rebate. A lot of this, money that we've got right now in the bank is predicated on one-time federal money. Now, I do believe that the package that we've put together will help everyone in this state. No, if you're not actually drawing a check and paying individual income tax, that is true. You won't see this immediate reduction. But what you'll see, in my opinion, is a better economic climate in Missouri drives more, brings more business into this state, which we're all better for.
Senator, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. The budget itself, the state budget, and I realize we have a lot of federal money from both the Trump and the Biden administration in the state budgets the last couple of years, but essentially it's gone up from $26 billion in fiscal year 16 to more than $48 billion. That's a little misleading because there's a lot of federal money, but the bottom line, that budget has gone up significantly. One of your Democratic colleagues from the Springfield area, Crystal Quaid, issued a statement on Twitter, and she's upset about what's happening in the Children's Division. And she said this yesterday, quote, "We have been shouting from the rooftops that the Children's Division was suffering for as long as I've been in office. We shouldn't be having a conversation about cutting taxes. We should be having a conversation about investment in our people and our state." End of quote. Your take on that comment?
Well, I think Representative Quaid needs to remember that we did make investments specifically in the Children's Division last year. We've updated and are going through an update process in all of their computer IT equipment that they use. We made investments in state worker pay over the last several years. Senator Mike Bernstetter from right here in Cole County can tell you, as the guy I would say who represents more state workers than anybody else around, he knows how important it's been over the last 8 years to be investing in those employees. And actually, in my opinion, we've worked very well with the Children's Division to continue those investments in the people that are out there on the front lines doing those jobs. So we've made investments. I think what you're always going to hear from some folks is you need to do more. You need to do more. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if there's ever going to be a point where people are happy with all the investments that we've made. But, my contention is I serve as the vice chair of Senate Appropriations. My contention will be that we'll continue to make those investments, not only in our people, but in our backbone, our infrastructure that helps them do their jobs out there in the field.
So I know you're not exactly sitting around yet and singing Kumbaya, but certainly there were skeptics that you would be able to get something across the finish line this quickly. Is what's happening in special session right now indicative of what might happen next session? And do you see kind of the feelings and the vibe in the Missouri Senate changing for next session?
Yeah, I hope so. We've got a handful of incoming freshmen that'll come into the chamber in January that I look forward to working with. I think we've had a rift, quite frankly, in the Republican Party for a couple of years up here in the Senate, and I'm ready to see that go away. I'm ready to see us all work together. And what you see right now is the good things that can happen when we do. Right? When we can say we're going to cut another $1 billion in taxes in this state, we do that because the Republicans are all working together.
All right, State Senator Lincoln Hough joining us here on News Radio 104.5 KWOS and 93.9 the Eagle. I always love this because we get this question all the time. I'll start with a quick story. So I basically born and raised in Missouri. My parents were in Air Force like Marsh's, so we moved around all over the place all the time. Basically 25 years I was gone, was in Idaho, was in Florida. And then I came back to Missouri, and I bought a car, and I got some paperwork from Boone County. He says, hey, you owe taxes on this. And I thought, well, I'm going to walk my happy rear end down to the Boone County taxpayer's office and say, see, you made a mistake. I paid my taxes on the car, see, when I bought the car. And so I try to tell him and introduce my, new kid here in town. And they said, oh, no. See, you've made a mistake. Here in Missouri, you have to pay tax. You have to pay property tax on this stuff. You have to. And I said, so I'm paying tax just because I have a car, I'm paying tax on and they said, yep. And that just blows me away off the text. Listener John, any ever discussions regarding, we talk about tax relief, getting rid of the personal property tax. Does that ever come up in the Senate?
Yeah, it comes up in the conversation. We've had a lot of ideas thrown around in recent years, some of which people always say, well, what are you going to replace the revenue with? What are you going to replace the revenue with? And so, again, I think what we've done with this income tax reduction is a measured approach in that reduction. So if we want to talk property taxes, I think instead of just abolishing them all day one, I think you need to look at, and we've had some conversations about ratcheting them back. Maybe for every family, you can exempt, starting out, you can exempt one car, and that would, everybody who has that personal property and they're paying that every year, that would give them a little bit of tax relief. And those conversations, Brandon, have come up several times.
And here's the thing that happens now also from my time in Florida. Stephanie alluded to earlier this, like there's no income tax in the state of Florida. People say, man, that's got to be awesome. Yes, but, and I'll liken it to if you take away the property tax, the state of Missouri is going to find one way or another to get some money out of you. Whether it's mostly, users fees, user impact fees, that's the way. State Senator Lincoln Hough reps the Springfield area. Anything else that you would like to add to be of service to the citizens here in mid-Missouri this morning before we let you go?
Well, I just want to say, hey, good morning, mid-Missouri. Thanks for having me on. And like I said, we've got some good things happening in Jeff City. I think a lot of times we focus on the negativity and the bad stuff. But, folks, when we're cutting $1 billion in taxes in this state, it's good for everybody.
All right. State Senator Lincoln Hough, thanks for your time this morning. We appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
I'll see you next time. Coming up a few minutes.
It is killing 300 Americans every day. That's the equivalent of one commercial airline crashing every single day, and this president does nothing about it. This vice president says the border is secure.
That's the Republican congressman from California, Kevin McCarthy. He's right. The vice president, the Department of Homeland Security have all flat out lied to the American people. Border is secure. It's secure. No, this fentanyl is coming across the border. And then the other thing that's happening, it's coming across several state lines. It's making its way into the state of Missouri. I hope that you will do this, okay? We're asking for a favor here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Anybody you know that maybe doesn't listen to talk radio, I mean good talk radio, solid, impactful talk radio. They don't listen to that kind of talk radio. Call them, email them, whatever. You can put it on your Facebook page. Say, listen, you got to be listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and 104.5 News Radio KWOS. A little bit after 8 o'clock. The Assistant Chief of Police in Columbia, he's here. He's got numbers, the number of kids and younger people that are dying right here where we live from fentanyl overdoses. The numbers, where they are compared to last year. Now that Joe's been in office for a while, the stuff, it's stunning. Crazy. 8:10. I hope you're here. Tell people you know. Even if they only listen for the 15 minutes that he's here with us, that's fine. They want to change and go back to whatever station they were listening to. That's cool. But this is important stuff. Welcome into the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah John Marsh. My name is Branden Rathert. So quiet quitting, this is where it's mostly the younger generation go, I don't want to work. I'm going to get in at 5 minutes after I'm supposed to be here, and then I'm going to leave 3 minutes early, and I'm not going to do more than what's asked of me. And say, well, good luck with that. But I'm starting to evolve a little bit, and I don't know if this falls under the guise of quiet quitting and why I'm on board with this. This worker quit because he put in paid time off, a request for some paid time off, and I don't know if he was denied. And he said, "Oh wait, you don't understand. I wasn't requesting the time off. I was telling you, and I am 100% on board with that, being mindful of my employer's needs. I'm not asking for the time off is what I am doing because my job, whatever it is not my number one priority in life. My number one priority is
yourself." No,
I know that sounds rude, but my job is not my number one priority. I'm not asking for the time off. I'm telling you, I'm not going to be here at this time.
Yeah, but so many people don't have that choice. And I mean, like, as a lawyer, like, my clients are my number one priority. And there are days that they have needs that I can't just be like, you know what, I'm not coming in today. That's not a choice. And for many entrepreneurs and small businesses, like the business owner we know who's having to shut the diner because he doesn't have people coming in. He was having to come in every day. Now he's injured. But in a small business, a lot of times there's only 1 or 2 or 3 people to do the work. And if someone is, already out or having a health issue or whatever, sometimes, your employer needs you to show up. The quiet quitting, I just don't get. I'm out at 5. I'm doing the least, the least possible work. I won't do any extra. We're raising a generation of sissies. And we are. Yeah. People are like, you know what? At 5, I'm done. I can't do any extra. And then they're going to ask you for a raise.
But here's the thing I don't like. When you put in for time off, it's like, oh, gosh, I hope they approve it. No, that's BS. No, I'm not asking you to approve it. I am telling you this is when I'm not going to be here. Fentanyl overdoses in mid-Missouri. That's coming up at 8:10.
Well, fentanyl, in our experience, is we're finding it's being used to lace or cut other products.
One pill can kill you. That's 4 in 10 of the pills that we've seized this last year and submitted to our laboratory contained a lethal dose of fentanyl.
All right, that is the FDA. And prior to that, Captain Brian Lear, Columbia Police Department, chatting with our news partners at ABC regarding fentanyl. It is here in mid-Missouri. It is wreaking havoc. It is causing major problems. This stuff, man, it's killing our kids. So when you have people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Alejandro Mayorkas, the Department of Homeland Security Director, telling you our border is secure, they are lying to you, and there are real-life consequences. Welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Branden Rathert, joined by Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
There's Mr. Brian Hausworth.
Good morning, sir.
Producer Hannah is here.
Good morning.
Mr. Marsh checking in. And we're joined this morning from the Columbia Police Department, Assistant Police Chief Jeremiah Hunter. He is with Narcotics and Investigations. Thank you for coming in. I wish that anybody who says our border is secure and and I don't want to make this political for you. This is me. This is, the administration is doing a good job and the border is secure. I wish they would have been at Hickman High School 1 year ago. When we had several hundred parents and kids show up. We'd had a rash of people that had died from fentanyl overdoses, and we had people get up and tell their stories, and I cannot tell you the number of parents of kids that had died from fentanyl overdoses that were in this building, and this stuff is in our community, and it is incredibly deadly. This isn't the weed. Hey, Junior, you shouldn't be smoking the weed. Oh, come on, Mom. This stuff in its most minute form, it will kill your child. It will kill anybody. And people aren't out buying fentanyl pills. This stuff is showing up in pills that they're thinking, oh, I'm not buying fentanyl. I'm buying this or that. And fentanyl is in it. Let's start here before we get into numbers. When you are on scene, somebody who's died, and I've been on scene. My brother died of a drug overdose. He was 16. I was 19. And you're on that scene, and the coroner's there, and law enforcement is there, and by this time, family starts rolling in, and it's a hysterical scene. Child has died. And as soon if you're able to figure out, okay, yeah, it was fentanyl. I'm thinking it's a twofold reaction. Number one, the reaction, just a parent has lost their child from a drug overdose. What is that like?
It's indescribable. You can't describe that. Every scene is different. Every family's different. We're human beings too. So, especially when a child's involved and you have children, you can't. You got to build a wall and block that off.
So then what is the reaction that you get from parents? Because I know the parents, there was a movie back in the 80s, Not My Kid, Not My Kid, Not My Kid. But then when the reaction of a parent when you say, hey, it was fentanyl, what is that reaction from the parent like?
I can't really describe that. It's one of those, every time you do a death notification, especially with narcotics or an overdose, which no one intends to overdose unless they're suicidal. Mm-hmm. They're doing it to get a fix. They're doing it to get high. They're trying to have a good time. So a lot of them are accidental. They're not intentional. Mm-hmm. So surreal scenes.
Yeah. What? So how is this stuff getting? How are kids? Because we're not going out and buying fentanyl pills.
No.
What are they buying, and then how is fentanyl getting into this stuff?
They're getting pills, and it's being pressed locally or overseas, and it's coming in volume. Probably, most likely through Mexico.
Yeah.
All the way here.
Yeah. Through the secure border, and this is killing kids here in mid-Missouri. Mm-hmm. So is it drug dealers? Are they taking like little bits of fentanyl and mixing it with other stuff? I guess I don't. I understand buying pills off the streets. Yeah. I understand that. But why are drug dealers putting fentanyl into these pills?
So it's coming in, and obviously it's the replacement for heroin. We don't see heroin very often anymore, almost at all. And they're cutting it, they're using it, and they're pressing into the pills. they're trying to make a profit, obviously. So whatever additives they add to it to extend. Yeah.
Okay. You know, Brandon's asked some great questions here, and it is obviously very emotional. Assistant Chief, we appreciate you coming in. Brandon actually covered the meeting for us last year for the news department at Hickman High School, and I looked at my story this morning, October 2021. At the time, you reported and Brandon reported there had been at least 22 overdose deaths in the city at that time. There were still 2 months to go. So two-part question. Ballpark, do you remember how many there ended up being last year? And also, how many have we had this year in terms of overdose deaths in the city, and how many of those fentanyl related?
So we have had, last year, the number was 30 overdose deaths. This year, as of today, we were at 25.
25, and we still have 3.5 months to go.
Correct.
How many of those fentanyl related?
We believe all of them, almost all of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And those are the ones we know about.
So as, you know, I have small kids. They're soon going to be entering that middle school, high school age. You know, what support or resources are there out for parents? And what are you guys telling parents what to look for?
We do. There's also, out of that meeting last year, the Overdose Response Coalition of Boone County kind of grew out of that. And so they're doing a lot of education. They're doing a lot of research too. And our VNOC, our narcotics unit, VNOC is Vice, Narcotics, Organized Crime. They're the ones that kind of spearhead that for us. They're involved deeply, and they have those conversations as well.
All right, our guest this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9, the Eagle and News Radio 104.5 KWOS, Assistant Chief of Police Jeremiah Hunter. We're talking about the number of fentanyl deaths this year compared to last year. They are up compared to where we were last year. It is here. Kids are getting their hands on it. He's joining us on Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning.
Yeah, as far as the grant money, I'm not aware of it. I'm not certain we had any part of that. Mustang and all the area task forces we're involved with heavily, almost on a day-to-day operation.
All right. I want to take a phone call real quick. Sheila, welcome into the show. What can we do for you?
I'm a parent of one of those kids that has died from a fentanyl overdose. My 23-year-old son died on January 11th. The sad part is he was incarcerated. He had been in the hole for nearly a year, almost exactly a year. He was released from the hole on a Friday morning at 8 a.m. He called me Monday and told me he was on the yard. He was doing well. He called me at 2:30 in the afternoon. He said that he was going to call me back when his call was up. You know, it tells you have 1 minute left. He said, Mama, I'm going to call you right back. I said, Caleb, I'm going into a meeting. Call me tonight. Your dad will want to talk to you too. That phone call never came. They called us at 4 o'clock in the morning and said they had found him dead in his cell. He was in a cell by himself. He had been clean for the year while he was in the hole. And that easily, after hitting the yard and being on the yard for less than 3 days, he died. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And no parent is immune from any of the impacts of it, and we can't protect our kids unless we all get together to do something.
Sheila, thank you for sharing that. I know that's got to hurt. I had a brother that died of a drug overdose. I don't have that pain as a parent, but I know what it's like to lose somebody close because of a drug overdose. God bless you for sharing your story. I know that hurts, but you're helping a lot of people right now. Thank you for that, Sheila, okay?
Thank you for taking my call.
You bet. And anytime we can do something for you, let us know. And this is something I'm guessing you deal with a lot. Broken up parents don't know what to do.
No, they don't, and no one's immune from it. I mean, I have family members myself that are involved.
You've got kids, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
What sticks out about her call is that someone is smuggling that into the jail.
Mm-hmm.
If I assume she's talking about the Boone County jail. I mean, she said locally. I worked in the prison system. You and I have talked about this. The gangs, and for people who don't know, they downplay these prison gangs, and I don't know what kind of gangs we have in the county jail. But the gangs, they're gangsters at the prison system. That's exactly what they are, and they get dope in there. That's what they do. There wasn't fentanyl going on when I was working at the prison system, but how are they getting it into the county jail? Brandon and I have been in there, and it's pretty secure. They've got to find some way. Are they getting it through the mail? Do you have any idea how they're getting that in?
Multiple avenues. That's one for sure.
Visiting room?
Could be, yeah.
Back of postage stamps, envelope liners.
You name it. There's a way.
Our guest is Assistant Chief of Police Jeremiah Hunter, Columbia Police Department, and I hope that you will share this conversation that we've been having this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Like, hey, you know, this stuff about the secure border and fentanyl coming across the border, these aren't just talking points. These have real-life consequences. How, when you've dealt with these fentanyl overdoses, like how young are some of these kids as you're seeing that this stuff is killing because we don't have secure borders?
High school. I mean, definitely high school and up. I'm not sure of anyone younger than that, not in recent times, but, anywhere from 16 on up, it's pervasive.
So, and the kids is just like, because I'm trying, what I have to get in, it's been a lot of years since I've been in high school, but it was a school, it was the hallways in school. Sometimes it was the parents' medicine cabinet. So these kids that we're seeing locally that are getting their hands in this stuff, they think they're buying something else. How does this play out?
Yeah, usually not just the kids.
The adults,
they think they're buying, some pain medication, Percocet, things like that, because they're all pressed to look like that,
And when we say
the
press,
opioid,
we mean is you can buy equipment to make pills to press your own pills with the markings and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and they're making this and they're putting the fentanyl in there because they can cheapen it, kind of like the crack cocaine thing that we saw back in the 80s.
Right.
We can dilute it and make more money, get you higher, or it will kill you. So as we talk about solutions locally, short of us doing something to secure our secure borders where this stuff is coming through, like what kind of things? It's mostly just educating parents.
It's a lot of education, and more importantly, it's knowing what they're doing, and that's hard to do. I mean, it just is. Having the conversation constantly, talking to them, letting them know the dangers, and the stories like the caller that just called in, and telling them, hey, this is a real deal. You can't mess around with this. So,
all right. Anything else that we need to add? 874-9390. Can you hang out for a few more minutes with Morning Bell? So she's got a lot of things she's doing today.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to step out for a little bit. And if you're cool, can we bypass the Morning Bell this morning? We'll do it tomorrow.
Perfect.
We'll do it at 8:35 because I want to continue our conversation here. Assistant Chief of Police in Columbia, Jeremy, because I think there's some more things that we need to talk about. And Joe has some comments that he wants to make. We'll continue our conversation. Assistant Chief of Police in Columbia, Jeremiah Hunter, and the local impacts of what's happening with fentanyl right here in mid-Missouri. All right, we are joined by Assistant Chief of Police in Columbia, Jeremiah Hunter. We were talking about a real thing, real impacts here on folks and kids in mid-Missouri, and I hope that you understand as we continue to share this story on 93.9 The Eagle and News Radio 104.5 KWOS. This fentanyl stuff coming across the border, it's not a conservative talking point. It's a real thing. It killed 30 local residents just in Columbia. Numbers readily available to us. Numbers right now this year, good chance it's going to surpass what happened last year. 30 last year, already 25 this year. So this is real. 874-9390. Kids are getting this. You've been there on scene. Those are ugly scenes when a child has died, when a teenager has died, when a young man has died. And then you explain to them, hey, this is what did it. Fentanyl is here, and how hard is it? If I were to leave here right now, how long would it be before I could go and get some fentanyl?
You probably get some in about 30 minutes to an hour.
30 minutes in Columbia, in mid-Missouri. I could walk out and get some fentanyl. All right, 874-9390. Mark, welcome on to the show. You're on with Assistant Chief of Police, and he's with Narcotics, Jeremiah Hunter. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning to the group. Two quick family experiences. First, my nephew died of an overdose. He got a hot shot July of 2021. He was a heroin addict, and he was in and out of rehab, and he ended up he wanted to get high. He got a hot shot. It killed him. He was 21 years old. Now, in my family, my second child chose to be in the St. Charles and St. Louis drug world for 10 years, selling, slinging guns, whatever was out there to do. And he, all the way up to a heroin addict, but the short of that, he's been clean for 4 years. And as a parent, you just like the lady who called, you can tell how helpless she feels over the situation. And the way I had to deal with that was, it might sound a little cold because I'm quite the realist. I know that for a drug addict, there's only two options, right? They're either going to quit or they're going to die.
Yep.
And I had to look at my own son. That's the way I had to view him. And the way I had to deal with that, as much as I would support him, anytime he made steps in the right way, I had to count him as dead.
Oh,
and that
man.
sounds a horrible thing to say, right?
But it is painful.
You have to.
Mark, I'll put you on hold and we can continue this. We're going to take some other phone calls too. I have to go here, but I want to continue this conversation 5 minutes from now. Phone calls from Bob, Mark, and Joe. We're talking about fentanyl here in mid-Missouri with the Assistant Chief of Police in Columbia.
It is killing 300 Americans every day. That's the equivalent of one commercial airline crashing every single day, and this president does nothing about it. This vice president says the border is secure.
Republican Congressman from California, Kevin McCarthy, talking about fentanyl. What is it doing here in at least one mid-Missouri town? We brought in the Assistant Chief of Police for the City of Columbia. He is with Narcotics Investigations, Jeremiah Hunter. Before we move forward here, some of the things we've covered already. Fentanyl overdose deaths last year.
30.
How many this year?
25.
25. 3.5 months to go.
And I got to stress, those are the ones we know about.
That's good.
So there are a lot of overdoses that end up at the ER. Police aren't called.
Oh, so if it's an overdose where they're not dying, okay, well, that's an excellent point. So that we don't get to know. So this is affecting kids right here. We've done a couple of things and kids are buying stuff in the hallways of schools. We said if Jeremiah and I were to leave here right now, the Zimmer Radio Studios, within 30 minutes, I could probably get some fentanyl if I wanted it, and then probably in 40 minutes be dead.
If you know where to go and you have the contacts, you know, it's that available.
Kids are getting it, and they're trying to push it on to kids, and kids are dying. So when people say the border is secure, you tell them the stories about things that are happening right here. If you have that conversation with, and I don't want to make this political, Mr. Hunter, I'm not trying to do that, but this is real stuff. I'm not trying to bring you into this. I'm trying to say this stuff is real. 874-9390. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Branden Rathert, John Marsh, Brian Houseworth, Stephanie Bell is here. Producer Hannah is also here on the show. Your phone calls, because these are, quickly before we continue with Mark's phone call, things parents can look out for. The conversation, not look out for, because if you're looking out for it, then chances it might be too late, might already be in the home. How can a parent approach that conversation with their kids about drugs in general, but especially now with this thing of fentanyl that will kill you?
The approach is just total honesty and facts. You've got to tell them what can happen, show them what can happen. There's so much research, there's so many educational materials available. Or they can come down to the police department and we can talk to them.
That might be a very powerful thing to do. Here's some numbers. These are the realities of what is happening. Mark is joining us, 874-9390. Then we're going to chat with Joe. I do appreciate you gentlemen holding. This is an important topic. Mark, so fentanyl has affected your life. Before we let you go, final thing that you would like to say and how it's affected you and the younger folks in your life around you.
Sure. So I guess just to say, like I said, parents end up feeling very helpless. You can have a lot of money to help your child, or you can have no money, and, that's not really going to make the change. My child just finally made the decision with the help of drug court. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But, he got squeezed. But eventually he made the choice to walk away from it.
Oh, thank God.
And, he's been clean for, 4 years, and he came out of it on his own choice, and that's what it takes.
Yep. Good. Mark, I'm glad. Thank you. That's an important story to share, there is help. And I thank you for being a part of Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning. And I always tell people with my own stuff, mostly as it relates to alcoholism, but I've tried just about everything under the sun over the years. I don't do that anymore. And if you have, and we get people to reach out all the time. Just this week, we're speaking with somebody. We mean that when we say, if you know somebody that's having issues with addiction, alcohol, drugs, I can pass along to you what was shown to me. I'm more than happy to show you the way out. It was a miserable, miserable existence. Joe has been holding for a while, and fentanyl's not the only thing happening here in mid-Missouri. Joe, welcome into the show. What is on your mind?
Well, I wanted to inform you a little bit about fentanyl and the other drugs that come from China. Mm-hmm. Genghis Khan originally used drugs back then to get them on their horse. Mm-hmm. Methamphetamine grows on steppes in Mongolia. Mm-hmm. Hitler used it. It's a war drug. There's no question about this stuff being a war drug.
All right, Joe, thank you for the phone call. 874-9390. Timothy, what can we do for you?
Well, I think the source of the problem is the degradation of the family life and people's wholeness and their souls. I mean, you can control all the avenues of getting it, but people are still going to get it. But the problem is that we need to work on people's souls and hearts and spirits. We are so broken in society today.
Yep.
People are looking for an escape, and it's not going to be controlling the border. It is to some point, but we need to work on family units and people communicating to their kids and to make known we care about them and be strong. We're so weak as society. We suck.
Yeah, and no, you're right. But then the reality is that it's still out there. I will tell you, and I'll speak from my own experience. My parents talked to me all the time. It didn't make any difference. Once I found that stuff, whoa, this makes me feel good. All the talking in the world for my parents didn't make a difference. Meanwhile, kids are dying. How do you? So you said you have kids, Chief. Assistant Chief. Do I address you as Chief or Assistant Chief? It's
Jeremiah's fine.
Thank you. Assistant Chief, Columbia Police Department, Jeremiah Hunter, joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. We're talking about the prevalence of fentanyl. I'll go back to this town hall thing last year. Several hundred people, parents crying because kids dying of this stuff, and it's happening. As a matter of fact, it looks like we're on pace to more people are going to die this year compared to last year. And we can talk to our kids. But it was that frothy, the stuff from my parents, drugs are bad. This sounds like it's a different conversation. Like, hey, this is going to kill you. And I don't mean like you're going to end up as a Skid Row bum under the bridge shooting crap into your veins. I mean, you take a pill at a party or somebody after school, you think this is going to kill you. How do you talk to your kids about this stuff?
Well, I have an older child and I have a younger child. Pretty big difference. They're 15 years apart. So the older one has gone through their own issues, and it's just it's unconditional love and it's tough love. And one of the greatest things that came out of that meeting last year was educating the public about Narcan and being able to supply Narcan to those who want it. I mean, all of our officers carry it. Mm-hmm. The ambulances carry it. I think the fire department carries it. Yeah. And oftentimes when we go to an overdose scene, somebody in the community already had Narcan and administered that. So that educational piece, before officers got there to administer the Narcan. Yeah. So that piece is helping. That educational piece is helping. And then at the end, we're not going to be able to arrest our way out of this. It's got to be the personal choices of everyone.
I do want to follow up, Chief, about the Narcan, because that did come up at the meeting last year at Hickman High School. It was distributed at the meeting. How often does CPD distribute that at meetings like that? And will there be an emergency meeting like we had last year? Is anything planned this fall? But these numbers look like they're going to surpass. Is anything like that possible?
Well, we don't distribute it from the police department. That's done through hospitals, organizations like the Overdose Response Coalition.
Sure.
And there's other groups too that you can get it from.
And the other thing that we were talking, I think it was listener Joe started to allude to this, methamphetamine. And, the joke is in our rural areas, you're going to find a meth lab somewhere out in the woods in the Lake of the Ozarks. Where's our meth? And the meth is still a big issue here in mid-Missouri. Where's the meth coming from?
It's coming from the border.
The methamphetamine is coming across the border of Mexico?
It's manufactured in such quantities now that in super labs, to make it here would be cost prohibitive. It's so cheap.
Man. Off the text, 874-9390. Thank you for talking about fentanyl. We got to do something to eradicate drugs in our communities, and it has to start with really hard and scary statistics. And, yeah, I know, and that's one of those, for a long time, been trying to, Reagan and Ronald and his wife Nancy just say no, and I don't think that stuff works. And I hope that especially with young kids, we go with the facts. This stuff, it will absolutely kill you. It's not like back in my day. It was the marijuana and it was this and it's going to kill you. Maybe this will kill you in a heartbeat. Anything else that you would like to add that we haven't covered here yet?
Nothing specifically. Just if, we can't do our jobs without the public's help. I mean, we've got to have continuing conversations and build relationships with everyone in our community. So.
Assistant Chief of Police in Columbia, Jeremiah Hunter. He's also with Narcotics and Investigations. Thank you so much. With 30 fentanyl overdose deaths last year, 25 this year, likely on pace to bring that. And then the fentanyl overdoses where people don't die that we don't know about. This stuff it comes from China just like this, and then it comes across the border, just like the meth. And he's been on too many scenes where. And I don't know if you've ever been on an overdose scene when somebody dies. My brother died of a drug overdose, and he was 16, so it was years ago. Fentanyl wasn't in play here, but it is an ugly. And we've got a very near and dear friend, a common acquaintance of ours, was on that scene even after things had settled down. It's something you don't ever want to be a part of. It's something you don't want at your house. You're dealing with a child who has died, or at any family member, not just a child. I say child, I mean young people. Anybody younger than me is a kid. It's just a scene you don't want at your house. It's what my dad, my brother, he took his own life 33 years ago. And we don't know if it was intentional or what. Doesn't matter. He's dead. To this day, my father will still break down over the death. He was the one who found my brother. Went to go wake him up for school one morning. Kept yelling, Evan, time to get up, time to get up. He wouldn't get up. He was going to school, South County, Melville High School in St. Louis. Wouldn't get up. And my dad actually, on the day of his birthday, went into the bedroom to go touch my brother, go nudge him, and his skin was cold, and my dad recoiled. And he fell apart on that day, September 19th. 1989 because of a drug overdose, and it's happening a lot here in town. Thank you for what you do, what you're doing with this. Thank you for your extra time here on the show. Very important topic, and thank you for calling and texting with your stories. We appreciate that. Keep doing what you do, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Coming up, we're going to wrap up the show. Before we get into the Gary Nolan show, we're going to open up the fridge, see what we have in the way of leftovers.
Here's a big old serving of leftovers. Enjoy.
All right, some of the things we did not get to on the show today here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and News Radio 104.5 KWOS. A lot of things going on. By the way, again, I want to thank the Assistant Chief of Police in Columbia talking about the number of fentanyl overdoses that happen right here where we live. These things are affecting us here. It's for real. You'll be able to go, and if you didn't get to catch up, because we're still getting questions on our text where you can go for training. There's a bunch of different organizations out there. Apparently there's one in Boone County where if you want to get the Narcan training, if you know a family member and you want to learn how to use it. I think most pharmacies and places, it's fairly simple from what I understand. Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, they have a program. It's the Missouri Overdose Rescue and Education Project. The Missouri Overdose Rescue and Education Project. If you have kids, grandkids, it'd be good stuff to know. All right, some of the things that we did not get to in the show today. By the way, and this is going to hurt a little bit. I'm going to tell you now. I'm trying to pull the Band-Aid off slowly here. Fed. They're going to be meeting. They're set to do what they can as it relates to inflation, trying to do what Joe can't do, and that's help you pay less or help ease the pain on that. Another substantial interest rate hike. That's coming. And then something else to look out for, and I don't want to end with all bad news here, but the current natural gas market conditions. See what happens here as we get into the winter months. Experts saying the energy crisis in Europe, in part caused by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, this is going to hurt us here in the States, especially as we get into the winter months. Some other things, and I don't know, this might already be affecting you, but 54 and 63, their highways 54 and 63 are going to be doing some work there again this morning. Motorists going to be directed to, and this is going to be going on, I think, for like 2 weeks or so, which is always fun. Motorists going to be directed to the Route W interchange to turn around and head back north to Highway 63. So might tack on a few extra minutes into your travel time today. Here's one of the things we didn't get into a whole lot today. So remember one of the things that Biden said in the interview Sunday night on ABC's 60 Minutes.
The pandemic is over. We still have a problem with COVID. We're still doing a lot of work on it. But the pandemic is over.
Pandemic is over, yet we're still forcing people in the military to get the vaccination. Pandemic's over, but we're going to boot your rear end out of the service if you don't get this vaccination. That's what we are going to do. That is just simply wrong. Some other things hanging out here on the show that we didn't get to this morning. Oh, I love this. So recently, traffic, Fortunately, not a whole lot of the news outlets pay. You know, these traffic data reports, these traffic stop reports that come out every year, and they go, oh, my God, look, these people are getting pulled over more than these other people. And it's complete and utter BS. You know who's getting pulled over the most? People that break traffic laws. That's all. People that break traffic laws. And you say, well, but the data shows this. Well, then maybe if there are certain people of certain colors that are getting pulled over more often than other people, then maybe that's something you look at honestly and say, okay, do we need to do a better job of training? I want to tell you a story here. And this was, I guess this must have been 4 or 5 years ago. In a mid-Missouri town, traffic data report came out, and I'm hanging out down there, and I'm with at least 3 different newspapers, all the local TV stations, and, of course, everybody. Well, how come this, and the black people, and this, and how come this, and how come that, and everybody, all these reporters just a buzzing. And I said, Chief, has anybody asked you about the disparity? And I'll tell you even a bigger disparity in these traffic reports. I said, has anybody brought up the number of men, the incredibly inordinate number of men that are pulled over compared to women? How come nobody complains about that? Why is that not a thing? The numbers aren't equal. They're not equitable. Us dudes get pulled over at a higher